Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, welcome to Ask Rob and Rob. 2 questions, 2 answers. You know the drill by now. 2 ways of getting in touch as well, Rob.
There are. Number 1 is via a phone call, which you can do by calling this number, and it's 013 808 00035. That's 013 808 00035. It'll be an answer phone. Rob and I won't be at the end of the line waiting for your questions, although we do appreciate them. And also, the second option you can do by your phone as well, if you've got a smartphone, because you can go to thepropertyhub.net/ask and leave a recording that way. But of course, you can do that on your desktop computer as well. So many options. We make it very easy. And that's why we've got another 2 questions this week. So first up's Gregory. He's got a lot going on. So let's get to his question so we can give him an answer.
Hi, Rob and Rob. It's Gregory. I've been considering commercial premises to do like commercial to residential conversions. And I was looking to seek joint venture finance to come on board and do the deal. My question really is, how do you go about doing that whole process? If you want to approach some joint venture partners, do you go ahead, speak to an agent or the vendor directly, negotiate a deal, then go away and seek joint venture finance, or what's the best way to do it really? Because at that point you're not able to present any figures of what it's going to cost to refurb and what you're going to do with it after that. So I was just a little bit unsure of the best procedure going forward to present a deal basically and have a joint venture or a few joint venture people come on board and back you on the deal. I look forward to hopefully hearing an answer from you guys, and keep up the good work. All the best. Thank you.
Okay, good question, Gregory. So you've got a bit of a chicken and egg problem here. So you've got a potential deal that you want to find funding for, but you can't go and find the funding until you know you can do the deal. But you don't want to do the deal if you might not have the funding. So what do? Where do you break this cycle? Well, there's a couple of things that I would say. First of all, you said that at the point of making the offer or before making the offer, you wouldn't be able to present it to JV partners because you wouldn't have the figures of what it would cost to refurb, because you wouldn't have the figures for the refurb cost, and you wouldn't know what you were going to do with it after that. And that's true. You might not know exactly, but I'd say that you should, of course, know roughly what the refurb cost is going to be, because you're going to need to factor that into your offer. You won't be able to make an offer to the vendor or the agent at all if you don't know what the costs are going to be, because otherwise you might be offering far too high. So yeah, you might not know precisely, but maybe if you do want to talk to partners, you could just go for a real worst case. If you've got a bit of a range, you could put in a worst case refurb cost number, for example. So if that number turns out to be wrong, they'll be pleasantly rather than unpleasantly surprised. Another thing that you can do as well to give you the confidence to go in and have this conversation is line up some bridging finance as a backstop. Because in this negotiation, there's a couple of things. So first of all, you're going to be able to negotiate with far more confidence if you know that you can do it. If you're having this conversation, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I don't know if I can actually do this anyway, then you won't be coming from a position of strength, and that will come across. And the other thing is that you'll be able to negotiate far more effectively if you can prove that you can actually proceed with the purchase. So if you go to a broker, get some bridging finance lined up, get a decision in principle or some kind of commitment from that lender, or even just something from the broker saying, yes, I think this would be possible, then you don't actually have to go ahead with that, but it gives you a backstop if you're unable to find that funding. So it's still a tricky situation, and while you're building your network, it is difficult because you might not be sure if that option is there or not. That's why joint ventures become more appealing as you become more experienced, because you'll have a larger pool of potential investors, so you know that for any deal that you find, there'll be somebody who's interested. But hopefully those couple of things will give you the confidence that you need to push on with this project and get yourself a great deal.
The other thing, Gregory, is if you can't do it in time, because you're taking this advice now and putting it all together, and the deal's slipping away, don't worry. I know it probably feels like this is the deal of a century to you because you've put your hard work and effort, but people can and do get emotional around deals they found themselves. I even see it creeping into my own psyche. I'll look at a deal and want to make it work because I've put so much effort into it. But sometimes the best thing is just to let it go, because you know what? Other deals come around. I'm not saying it's easy, but they do come around. So don't worry if this deal slips away while you're putting all this together. There'll be plenty of other opportunities too. And as we've got time, Rob, we've got plenty of opportunity for another question.
Yep, we have, and I think you're going to like this one, Rob. This one comes in from James, so let's have a listen.
Hi, Rob and Rob. James here. Thank you both for such an accessible, educational, and entertaining podcast. You've helped me gain confidence in property during a period with such uncertainty. You clearly run your ventures with great integrity, something that isn't easy to find. My question today is in relation to the property cycle that I know you guys love, so hopefully one that gets your interest. What do you think of Ray Dalio's concept of the short and long-term debt cycle, and how do you think this interacts with the property cycle, given that the timelines vary? In addition, do you think that the perceived strong growth in London house prices is a natural result of the reflationary period of that long-term debt cycle he talks about? Thanks again, guys, and keep on with the great work. Speak to you guys soon. Bye.
Oh, you are right, Rob. I do like this one. Thank you, James. Great question. Okay, so first of all, who's Ray Dalio? For those listening, well, Ray Dalio is a hedge fund manager, one of the wealthiest men in the world, runs, I believe, the biggest hedge fund in the world. So a guy who knows what he's talking about, a guy who's accumulated a lot of wealth and made a lot of wealth for other people too. So you could say he's got a fair handle on the economy. But the great thing about Ray, don't know him personally, but I'll call him Ray, is that he has released a video which explains the long-term debt cycle. This is a fantastic video. I pass this around to anybody with a vague interest in economics because I think it's just a great way of understanding how the economy works. So if you type in Ray Dalio economic cycles, something to that effect, into Google, you'll find a video well worth the watch. If you're a property investor, you should have an understanding of what's going on in the economy. You really should, because it affects you. The 18-year property cycle is a big part of that, and that's what James is comparing it to there. So make sure you learn all about the 18-year property cycle and all the stuff we've done on that. But also, Ray Dalio's video is a great partner for that. So how does Ray Dalio's concept and the 18-year property cycle interact? Well, actually, very, very closely. Now, there's a clear distinction that needs to be made right from the off, is the 18-year property cycle is related just to property, and the Ray Dalio video is related to the wider economy. And Ray Dalio invests in stocks and shares. Now, stocks and shares are far more volatile and moved much more by the economy than property. Property needs bigger things to happen to make it move dramatically. It's a slower investment vehicle. It doesn't go up 10% one week and down 10% the next. But stocks could do that in minutes, never mind hours or days or weeks. So now we've got all that out of the way. Do they compare? Well, yes. Ray Dalio's cycles talk about 5 to 7 years. On average, there's a dip. And there is. And that does play out. But what we find is it's the stock market that moves, not so much the property market. But if you play this through, roughly 3 cycles in Ray Dalio's concept is the same time as 18-year property cycle. And you have your mid-cycle wobbles, which would tie in with one of Ray Dalio's wobbles. But then you also have a bigger market crash. And that ties in exactly with one of the crashes Ray Dalio's talking about as well. Remember, in the last 18-year property cycle, we had a big market crash in the middle, but not a property market crash. And then in 2008, we had a big property crash and a big market crash. Both are paired up at the same time. So this is quite hard to get across via audio, especially if you are hearing about these two concepts, the 18-year property cycle and Ray Dalio's concept, for the first time. So my advice is go and watch both, and now understanding how they both interact and how Ray Dalio's is more about the general economy and much more aligned to the stock market, but still does have a connection to the 18-year cycle, then I think you will get probably even more confidence in both theories. So go and watch it. Find it very fascinating. Don't worry, Ray's done a much better job through his video explaining it than I've just done. We've done plenty on the 18-year property cycle, so much so, hours worth of content, so it's hard to get it across in a short, concise answer here. But hopefully that gives you enough to go on and do a bit more research and find a bit more out.
Yeah, you should certainly do that. I think as an investor in anything, including property, you need to understand not just the factors involved in the movements of that particular asset class, which in property, of course, is the 18-year cycle, but the wider economy as well. And that video that Rob mentioned is a great way of doing that. So thank you, James, for that question, because that's given us the prompt to talk about this kind of thing. And hopefully now lots of other people will be able to go and benefit from it. And that is the great thing about Ask Rob and Rob. You get your question answered. So that hopefully will solve something to you or put your mind to rest about a certain issue. But thousands of other people who are listening get to benefit from that knowledge as well. And I've had people say to me that they listened to an episode of Ask Rob and Rob. It was someone else's question and they got enormous value from it and it really helped them out in a certain situation or changed their approach to something. So by asking your question, you are not being selfish. You're doing a great public service. So do get over to thepropertyhub.net/ask. Get that question in. We'd love to give you and everyone else an answer.
And of course, we'll be back with more knowledge and more, hopefully, you deem expertise on Thursday with the Property Podcast. So we'll be back then. Of course, we'll be back next Tuesday with Ask Rob and Rob. But until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.